Hey guys. All right. I think we now have this fixed. I'm sorry, but Mr. Guns and Gear is going to have maybe some very soft audio, and he's going to try to talk loudly so you guys can hear. And we were trying to deal with those audio issues, and we were running into a number of problems. But before we get this video started off, I do want to mention that our friends over at USCCA are helping to make this video possible. We've been working with USCCA for about a year and a half now, and the relationship with USCCA and the Military Arms Channel, I'll explain here in a moment, but USCCA is basically carry insurance. And in times like right now when things are absolutely crazy, that peace of mind, which I've had again for over a year and a half now, is very comforting. And right now they're offering $2.25 million of carry insurance to their members. Down in the video description, you will find the disclaimer. There is an underwriter that is servicing them. But again, $2.25 million with the carry insurance. So if you get into a self-defense situation, immediately reach out to them and they'll take care of you from there. And that's a lot of money for your defense. So please check them out. They're also big into training. So they'll teach you how to handle yourself should you get involved in a self-defense shooting and all that good stuff. So you get training and you also get that coverage for your monthly fee. And how they're related to us here at the Military Arms Channel is if you become a member, we get a small percentage every month that you stay a member, which also helps us here at the Military Arms Channel. So you're doing two things. If you join USCCA, you're getting $2.25 million worth of carry insurance, training, and you're helping to support the Military Arms Channel. All right. So with that being said, let's jump into our two topics of conversation. And for those of you, I'm being rude. For those of you who may not know, this is Mr. Guns and Gear. We've been friends for quite some time. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on. Again, sorry about the audio issues if they're coming through, but we tried out a couple different mics. It's the best we got.
Man, it's so weak. Hopefully, it's getting a little bit louder to our viewers out there. So there's two things that are going on that we want to talk about in tonight's live stream, and the first thing is the BATF. If you follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, we posted a story a day ago about action that's being taken by the ATF. And that was information that was shared with me. And then I found the information on a website. Originally, it was sent to me via email. And then I went and found the actual website. Now, the website is the law firm of Wiley Rain. And they are a large law firm that deals primarily with industry issues. They represent a lot of gun manufacturers and importers in Washington, D.C., and they deal with the ATF on a regular basis. So this is not some sort of a quack that posted this article. And wow, if we're going to dig into this, and it's really scary. Mike, I know that you've had a chance to dig into it, and you've been talking to your followers about it a bit.
Sure. Yep. So I actually recorded a video on it earlier. It should be up later tonight on my channel. But yeah, so what we know right now, at least what I know right now anyway, is like you said, the ATF is attempting to reclassify imported pistols specifically. So as to whether or not that applies to other pistols that may be in the country or may be produced domestically, from what I've seen, that's still kind of a gray area. But regardless, things like that we're all used to, like a Draco AK, for example, very well under their new definitions could be deemed not importable as a pistol and would have to be an AOW, which would make it an NFA item.
Yes, so that's what it's about. I'm going to bring it up here really quick for you guys. You can actually take a look at the website, never mind. I'm not going to bring it up here really quick. Let me see if I can add it here. Here it is over on the side. So this is the law firm's post, and we're going to kind of go through it. The whole top half of the email deals with strictly importation. So ATF has not been consistent in how they determine what classifies a handgun for purposes of importation and what classifies a rifle. It's been ambiguous. They've, at one time they would have random agents, female agents, large bodybuilding agents, whatever, go out and hold a, 8-pound handgun and go, yeah, I can shoot this one-handed. It's a handgun. And then another agent that might not be as strong would pick up that same handgun and go, no, I can't really shoot this one-handed, therefore it's not a handgun. They had a point system. So point system, if you get up to 75 points, then it would be classified as a handgun. But where we get into this gray area under the import, and this is going to roll over into what this means for the regular, everyday American AR-15 pistol owner, AK pistol owner, etc. They've kind of switched gears here. And what they're doing now is taking a holistic approach. So they're claiming things like this in some of the new letters. So all this is being done in private. None of this is being done openly. This is all being done in private because there's a thing called IFR. It relates to executive orders that were signed by President Trump early on in his administration that was intended to stop this exact behavior with all of the regulatory agencies.
Yep.
And ATF has gone completely way out in left field here, far worse from what I hear from other attorneys than any other of the agencies. ATF has truly gone rogue here. So what I'm showing in that third window is some of the stuff that ATF has begun listing the following objective design features when making evaluations: the incorporation of rifle sights, the utilization of a rifle caliber ammunition, 5.56 and 7.62 millimeter have been considered as such. Incorporation of a rifle length barrel. So if you have a 20-inch barrel or an 18-inch barrel, that's a rifle length barrel. Even a 16-inch, what about an 8-inch?
Right.
There's 8-inch Dan Wessons out there, but it's arbitrary. The ability to accept magazines that range in capacity from 20 to 100 rounds, and which would also contribute to the overall weight, which I addressed earlier, and then the overall length of the weapon, which creates a front-heavy imbalanced when held with one hand. So there are a lot of guns out there right now sitting, waiting for ATF approval, and nobody in the industry knows why ATF hasn't moved in well over a year. And this is why. Mike, is there anything you want to add?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So right after that, right after those standards that you just talked about, quote unquote, it goes on to say that the ATF in their most recent private ruling has said that those features that Tim just listed are neither binding on future classifications nor is any factor individually determinative. So what they're saying now is that those factors they're using currently may be completely different tomorrow and arbitrary.
Yep.
Right. So how is anyone who is a firearms manufacturer in America, a firearms importer, or even a firearms owner supposed to know if what they have in their hand is an NFA item or is just a regular pistol? I mean, that's the crux of the argument, right? You just not knowing what's legal. And like Tim said, all these are being done privately. So this isn't publicly available information. And from what these attorneys are saying, which makes sense based on the previous stuff they put forward, is that the only way to find out if the gun that you own is actually an AOW is to submit that design to the ATF.
So yes, this is where it is absolutely crazy. So how they're getting around the executive orders, and I want to thank John Hickok for the $100 super chat, man, brother. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Also, thank you for the other recent super chat. I'm trying to scroll back in here and try to catch them all. But what they're saying is we're not making any final agency determinations here. And this is how they're getting around the IFR and the executive orders. They're saying, well, this is a fluid situation. It's subject to constant change. And therefore, it's not a final agency action. Therefore, it's not governed under the IFR or the executive order stopping such agency action. It carries the weight of law, however. So this fluid, constant changing of what defines a handgun, what defines a rifle, and worse, what classifies it as any other weapon is fluid, according to the law firm. And this will cascade over into domestic review. So let's go a little bit further down the page where it talks about the revocation of the existing import permits. So say you picked up one of those PE90s out there, or you picked up something that was brought in that had a 16-inch barrel, a 20-inch barrel, whatever, and you put a brace on it, and whatever you did with it, but it was imported as a pistol. A lot of companies, FN, for example, used to bring the SCARs in as pistols and convert them into rifles here in the United States. What they're talking about doing is revocation of existing import permits, then retroactively applying that and making those firearms illegal. And what they're talking about is if you want to know if your personal firearm is considered an any other weapon, which being in possession of it without paying the tax is up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine, you have to submit your gun individually to ATF, wait up to a year, and let them determine whether or not your formerly imported pistol is considered an AOW or if it's going to be okay as a pistol still. And this is where it gets into that real gray area. And so this starts off at the import level, but this will cascade down to, and this is what Wiley Rain's talking about, this will cascade down to the individual owners, gun shops, and importers. They may even revoke import licenses and blame the importer for their own determination. So you submitted a gun for their approval. They approved it. Now they're going to yank your import license because you submitted a gun for approval that you shouldn't have submitted. What kind of circular logic is that, Mike?
Right. And a lot of people may not know this, but there's not a lot of companies that import firearms to America. I mean, it's a very small number. So if you start taking out those import licenses, it can have a very serious impact really, really quickly. Additionally, like what would the practical practice of submitting your own firearm to the ATF for determination be? I mean, it'd be a complete nut roll as an individual. And then let's say they determine it's an AOW, then it would have to get sent to your local SOT. And then you'd have to do all the paperwork to get it even given back to you. I mean, it's craziness. It's absolutely insane.
Yes. And this goes back to, which we'll talk about in your video in the Biden gun control plan, where they're going to go so far as to, if they can, force you to pay a $200 tax on every magazine over 10 rounds. And so What if I had to go through and pay a $200 tax on every pistol that I own that they decide is an AOW? I couldn't afford it. I simply couldn't afford it. And I'm not going to say what I would do because ATF does watch us, but it's, this is not freedom, guys. This is not what freedom looks like. And when you have an agency that's actively doing this purposely for political reasons, there is a reason this is being done in October. This is not being done for any other reason than politics. And the IFR, the EOs that are supposed to be stopping this type of behavior, if Biden gets into office, now I don't get into the business of endorsing candidates. I'm just telling you reality. If Biden gets into office and rescinds these executive orders, ATF will make this the law, and this will happen. So right now, they're just suggesting and they're waiting to see what happens in the election, but they're also trying to separate Trump from his base by making these anti-gun determinations. So it is a very political move.
So I agreed 100% on that. And I said, I made a video on the honey badger and how they attempted to reclassify that and then eventually came back with a 60-day stay. That's exactly what they're doing. They're playing politics rather. So they're saying now, after all the backlash on the honey badger and everybody speaking up and reaching out to their congressmen and the White House and everything else, they're saying, oh no, we were wrong. The honey badger isn't an SBR. You're not illegally producing SBRs and selling them. People who own them don't illegally own them, but only for 60 days.
Right. I mean, so what's Q supposed to do?
Right. And what's an owner supposed to do?
Right.
I mean, wait for the election?
Right.
And that's exactly what it is. That's why that timeline is 60 days. That's why it's not 120 days, for example.
It puts it well into November. Yep. Yes. And so again, guys, I know everybody wants to beat up on Trump. Look, I am not the biggest Trump guy. I'm the guy with his name on a federal lawsuit suing the Trump administration over how they did this with bump stocks. And what I said back then is related to this. When I was yelling from the top of my lungs, screaming at the sky, it's not about the stocks. When we had other people in social media saying, this isn't our hill to die on, let them have them, they're stupid. I'm saying, guys, it's not about the stock. It's about how they're going about this. And what they're doing right now is using the exact same methodology. And this is what we need to stop. And so we have one lawsuit filed, and now we're going to have to potentially file another lawsuit to stop this behavior. But this takes years to litigate. We've been in this court case. The others have been dismissed or in various states right now. My lawsuit with the GOA is currently still at the Sixth Circuit, still waiting for a determination. If we don't get a favorable determination, we're going to take it to the Supreme Court. Now we have another conservative justice supposedly, but I don't have much faith in the Supreme Court either. So, So I kind of got off on a little bit of a political rant there, which I apologize for, because again, I don't try to endorse candidates. I have viewers that identify as pro-gun Democrats and stuff like that. But the reality is, if you go to Biden's page, which we'll talk about when we get to Mike's situation, you go to Biden's page, it's 3 pages long of everything he wants to do gun control wise. So it's a scary situation. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think it's twofold. It's scary for two reasons. Like I said, number one, that you don't know what the law is. That's not just problematic. I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens in banana republics where they just come in one day and change the law and say, now you're a criminal, come with us. I mean, that is what the ATF is trying to do right now in America. I mean, it's just
Yes.
completely unjust. It's
Just
unjust
like with the
as it could
brace.
possibly.
Just like
Correct.
with the, I'm not with the brace too, but with the bump stock. It went through 4 separate reviews, and ATF said this. First of all, ATF has never been in the business of regulating accessories. What I read to you earlier about rifle sights and all this other nonsense, they will take a look. If you submit your gun, you have to submit it in the configuration you plan to use it. Sights, AFG, magazine, the exact way you intend to use it for their determination. Now they're in the business of regulating accessories. And since when is that okay? But that goes back to the whole bump stock thing. They retroactively applied that. They said it's perfectly legal, 4 reviews under the Obama administration. I'm sorry, guys. And then that goes completely green. Thanks, Aaron. That was old cameraman Aaron. Completely trashed the iPad, and so we'll have to bring that back up. And we don't have it. So, all right. Thanks, Aaron. All right. So anyway, I will try to get that back up here. Mike, take it for a minute, my friend, because I'm going to try to.
Sure. But
Get
yeah,
this.
no, your point on the bump stock that I think you're getting at was that over and over again, there was determination saying it was perfectly legal. It was not a violation of the NFA in any way. And then all of a sudden they come back and say it is as soon as President Trump basically says, yeah, go ahead and ban it. And again, that turned, bump stocks weren't all that popular. There were probably, I don't know, under 1 million. This is my guess. I have no idea. But braces are super popular. I mean, there's millions and millions of braced pistols in America right now, and millions of Americans who own them that are potentially facing, criminal charges should this thing actually become law, quote unquote law.
Exactly. And this is where it starts to cascade over into, the actual, shooting public. So they are going to, right now, this is being applied to importation. The next logical step, because the ATF can't say, well, imported firearms are AOWs, but the same firearm domestically isn't, they can't have that type of inconsistency. They have to have consistency across their determinations. So if they say an HK91 pistol with an 8-inch barrel, which was denied based on this letter, if they say that's an AOW, which is what they're saying, if it's over 26 inches, if it's under 26 inches, they conveniently left the AOW out in the last determination. But right now there's 3 denials, 2 of which they cited the AOW clause in the NFA. The third one, they conveniently left it out because I think ATF realizes they opened a whole big can of worms here. But this will cascade over into how ATF looks at guns currently in possession by gun owners right now. It only stands to reason, and that's what Wiley Rain is pointing out in that message that they shared. They're saying, look, this is being applied at the import level. This will cascade over into how they view firearms domestically produced, domestically owned, and it could potentially make millions of Americans felons, literally overnight. All
Yeah,
right, we're getting
absolutely. And to the point too about the ATF just acting rogue, I just want to bring one other thing up that I thought about with the honey badger, is that typically it's Fat D or somebody at the head of NFA branch that's making any type of determination letters that you see out there. But with the honey badger, it was a local field agent in Boston. Like
correct.
That, to my knowledge, has never been the case. Like Tim has an FFL, I have an FFL. Like I deal with the local agent here. We have 2. I know them. Like those guys are not making ATF determination letters. Like that's not a thing. But that's exactly what happened in the honey badger case.
Yes, and that's going to boil over into this. So what we saw with the honey badger that was so unique, typically FATD is the branch within the ATF that makes the determinations on what's importable and what is not. Then you have the tech branch, which makes determinations domestically what's manufacturable and sellable on the U.S. market and what is not. And then you have the criminal enforcement division, which does nothing but go around, kick in doors, and arrest people. They're the criminal enforcement element, the armed element. And what happened with Q, typically if you're a manufacturer or an FFL, you're going to get a visit from your local examiner, your local ATF agent. They're not door kickers. They're I don't want to call them accountants, but they're very knowledgeable about all things related to the law, to being an FFL holder, and that they would contact you and say, hey, we think we might have a problem here. Let's have a meeting and talk about it. What they did to Q, because they can't do that under this IFR, under the executive orders, the tech branch stepped back and said, hey guys, look, the IFR says we can't do this. But the criminal branch under the Boston field office?
Boston, yeah, it was Boston.
Boston field office said, you know what? Nope, we're going after this criminally. They went to Kevin and threatened criminal action. They sent him a cease and desist. And I've had people say, well, that's just a formal letter. A cease and desist doesn't mean much. In the regular world, when the ATF sends you a cease and desist, it's not a recommendation. The next step is the door kickers.
Yeah.
That's when you get raided, all your inventory gets confiscated, you get charged with the crime, and now you get to defend yourself in court. So
correct.
Go ahead.
Just for a historical example on that, that's exactly what happened to Stag Arms a few years ago. So it went through the exact same process.
Yep.
And the owner's in jail.
In their case, they were politely contacted by their local agents, they were told, hey guys, you got to get your machine gun stuff in order here. And they took it as a suggestion and just blew it off. And then they were warned again. And then the next step was the criminal division. But that's how it normally works.
Right, but that's why you can't take it as a suggestion. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, right.
If you have that, you can't just be like, oh, it's just a suggestion. No.
No, the ATF and these regulatory agencies aren't in the business of making suggestions. It's not like in the, in the regular world where your neighbor wants to sue you because your grass is too tall and then you get a cease and desist. You can go, screw that. And maybe he'll sue you. Maybe he won't. Probably get thrown out in court. It's not a big deal. When you get something from the criminal division of ATF that says cease and desist, the next step is raid. So It's not to be taken lightly. So that's what this whole letter is about and why it's so important. And this is early on, guys. People are saying, is this being applied now? Technically, no. There have been arrests with the SB. There have been arrests with the short-barreled rifle stuff. There have been arrests in that case. Right now, with regards to AOWs and ATF kind of revamping how they view this, no, there have not been any arrests or prosecutions yet. This is very early on. The whole reason this information is being released now is to get people like you contacting your representatives. We can stop this. We can stop it because ATF doesn't want light cast on this. They're doing this in the secrecy of backroom deals and private letters to companies that don't want to come forward. And you're going to say, well, why won't these companies come forward if they've gotten these letters saying that their gun is an AOW? Because they don't want to anger the ATF. The ATF is a very vengeful organization. If you go out and cast light on their shady activities, they're going to shut you down. It's like a bad cop in a small town. They'll just keep pulling you over and pulling you over and pulling you over, giving you citations until you lose your driver's license. The ATF can wreck your life and they make it a hobby. So these companies are scared of them, and rightfully so. So go ahead, man.
I was going to say, and when the Q thing happened, a lot of people were asking why Q. Well, as we found out subsequently, it wasn't just Q, as Tim was saying, but Q is a small enough company. This is my opinion. Q is a small enough company that I think the ATF felt comfortable going after them and felt they could bully them. But they're also a big enough company that they kind of have the ability to come back at them, and they have a big enough social media presence to create some waves in the industry. But the smaller companies that they went after, which there's several that we know of, just aren't in that position ultimately. And like Tim said, they're just afraid to fight back. And the easiest option to stay in business is to not say anything. Unfortunately, now credit to Kevin at Q, he didn't take that position, and that's why we know about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Kevin, and as we now know, we, a lot of times when we get this information, we're asked to sit on certain components of it. There's certain things I can't talk about, information that I know that I can't talk about, that I would betray confidences and potentially expose, companies to, ATF, retaliation. But Q was sitting on that letter. If you go back and look at the date, I believe it was dated August 3rd or something. And he was trying to negotiate with ATF, but they just were stonewalling him and not doing anything. And finally, he made the decision to go public. He decided, I'll risk the retribution of ATF. People need to know about this. But there are other companies out there that got the same letters that haven't come public yet. They don't want to go public because they are scared of ATF retribution.
Right. But, like the ATF isn't going after, let's just say Palmetto State Armory, for example. Palmetto probably sold 2,000 braced pistols today. Right?
Oh, gosh, yes. They didn't go after
real.
SIG. They didn't go after
Right.
Smith & Wesson. They didn't go after PSA, the actual big players selling millions of these things. They went after a small niche manufacturer that the others, I will say, I suspect are kind of lower on the food chain in terms of their relationship to Smith & Wesson and SIG and those types of, Goliath companies that have fleets of lawyers that would snatch this up and, immediately take it to the courts and possibly get the ATF with their hands slapped. If you're going to take the ATF to court, guys, it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars to file these suits. The suit that we're going through right now with GOA, please support the GOA, guys, because they're going to wind up spending $1 million or more fighting this. It's going to drag out in the courts, but we are trying to stop this type of procedural nonsense that is endlessly encroaching on our rights, because what's not happening, all the stuff ATF is doing, this is them legislating from a bureaucracy. They're taking the Congress and the president out of the picture, and they're making up laws however they see fit. And this, I don't know if I want to get into the issue of Chevron deference, but in essence, it needs to stop. And, Trump tried to stop it. He issued executive orders to stop it. There is an IFR procedural rule in place saying these agencies cannot make these determinations without express permission from the DOJ, and yet they're doing it.
And to that end, I would also point out that at the Washington, D.C. level, things take time. I get that. But at the same time, Attorney General Barr works for President Trump, and the buck stops with him, right? So ultimately, it is on him to stop it. And obviously, there's a lot of things on every president's plate, but the more energy we can get behind this, the more likely that is to happen. I personally do not believe Donald Trump approves of any of this. Now, we don't know. And until, him or one of his representatives comes out and speaks on it, we can't really say. But I personally doubt it. But it definitely stops with him. And
I had conversations, and key people within the administration have been now briefed on this. So it will be interesting to see what happens, because going into November 3rd, which is just a week away, if Trump wants to reconnect with his base, there's a lot of firearms owners that vote for him. He may have to take action on this. I'm sure he's weighing it right now. But I do know that key people within the Trump administration have now been briefed on this situation. So we will see what happens.
Good.
I'm just bringing up some of these super chats. I'm trying to keep up with them, guys. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. It means a lot. We are viewer supported. All right. Do we want to go any further down that rabbit hole, Mike? Do you want to move on to, we are half past the hour. Do you want to talk about what happened with YouTube now, guys? This is even another big story. This is incredible. And this gets into big tech and Section 230 and all that other stuff you hear talked about in the news. Mike, tell the viewers what happened.
Sure. So basically, I put up a video where I just walked through all of the information on Joe Biden's website as it pertains to quote unquote gun safety. And I went through it and basically explained what it means to somebody who's not a gun guy, right? Like, I know what all of that stuff means, but somebody who just went out earlier this year and picked up a Glock 19, as their first gun because of 2020 and the craziness that it's been, they have no idea what the NFA is, right? They have no clue. So basically, I walked through all the different proposals, and there's a whole bunch of them. The key proposal is that anything any assault weapon or gun that could take magazines more than 10 rounds or magazines of more than 10 rounds all became NFA items if you don't sell them back to the government. So obviously there's a lot more that goes into it than that. But so a Glock 19, for example, that takes three, or rather comes with 3 mags, you're talking about $600 in tax stamps for the magazines, plus another $200 for the Glock itself under the NFA, or sell it back to the government, be forced to. Anyway, the video goes into all those details, but the news of it is that YouTube took that video down, and it was up for days. It was up for 3 days, I believe. And then they just randomly took it down and said that it didn't, that it violated their community guidelines. Now, initially, I've had several videos which have had this happen too in the past, and I've kind of understood it in the past. Like, for instance, my most recent one was a fuel filter suppressor test. Like, I kind of get how they say I could be making a fuel filter which would go, or excuse me, a silencer which would go against their guidelines. But I actually won that appeal, and that video is still up on my channel now. So in this video, literally nothing I talked about in any way violates their community guidelines. I mean, like, not at all, nothing. So I was like, surely this video will come back immediately as soon as somebody actually watches it. But 24 hours later, I got an email confirming it. And from my network that I'm in, which is a YouTube thing that we have, their contacts there, which typically they're able to get in touch with anybody at YouTube they want and get a result back really quickly. They've said that the people they've talked to at YouTube can't tell them why my video was removed. That's never happened to me before. Ever.
That's just unbelievable. That's just unbelievable. And guys, what I have up right now is the Biden website. All you have to do is go to joebiden.com/gun safety, and you can see what I'm showing you right now. And it's literally 3 pages of all his gun control plans, which include basically, turning every single gun out there into a NFA item. Your AR-15s, your AKs, your HK 91s and 93s and everything that's out there, plus all your Glocks, anything that takes over 10 rounds, they are actively going to try to do this. Now, they can only do it, of course, if they get the House, the Senate, and the White House. But I've also seen other people in social media say this, and it was really dumbfounding to me. And I just don't know if I can chalk it up to naivety or what. But other people in social media have actually said, presidents always threaten gun control. It never really happens. Things are different now. When I was a young man in the 1990s, there were still pro-gun Democrats in Washington. There's plenty of pro-gun Democrats out in just rural America and stuff like that. But in Washington, D.C., there were a few pro-gun Democrats that would not vote for strict gun control. Today in 2020, there's no such thing as a pro-gun Democrat in Washington, D.C. It's now a plank in the Democratic Party that they're all anti-gun. So if they get control of the House and the Senate, what you're going to see is what you saw in Virginia. And if you don't think that's going to happen, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that you're just truly being naive. If they can get control of both houses and get the White House, you're definitely going to see a move where all it's going to take is one shooting, one anything, and they will do everything they can within 2 years because of midterms to do as much damage to our Second Amendment, just like in Virginia. And once it's done, guys, you have to stop this stuff proactively. You have to stop it before it becomes law. Because once it becomes law, it's 1,000 times harder to undo it. You got to get politically active and stop it before it happens. And if you don't, it becomes the new normal.
Right. And so typically I would agree with you as well about the House and the Senate needing that to have this happen. But with what the ATF's doing, I mean, do they really? Right. We don't know is the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, they could simply have the White House, and all they have to do is appoint a new attorney general, and right. Biden can erase those executive orders right now that are constraining these alphabet agencies, and then ATF is free to do whatever they want, and it doesn't take an act of Congress. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Correct. And then, combine that with big tech censoring that's going on with my video. And interestingly enough, Facebook, I put that video up on my Facebook page under videos and on my Instagram page, and it's still up there just fine. No issues there. So, I mean, it's just crazy that YouTube took it down like that.
I don't get it. And then, you know, I heard people say, oh, it's just an algorithm. Well, even if it was just an algorithm, that's bad enough, because I'll guarantee you they're not taking Trump videos down.
No.
If it was just an algorithm, somebody wrote that code to bring down videos that had anything to do with Biden. And then it goes to human review. You went to human review and they upheld it. And all you did was read from his website.
Literally. Like,
Literally.
there's nothing in that video I'm not even holding a gun. There's nothing in that video. Well, no, I do hold a gun, but there's nothing in that video that in any way is close to a community standard violation at all, period. It's a straight up explanation video of what this policy means. That's it. That's all it was. And like I said, you guys can see it on my other social media outlets, and I have a YouTube rep too. Like, I'm big. I have somebody assigned to me. They haven't gotten back with me yet, and that's the first time that's happened. They usually get right back with me. So yeah, I mean, it's there is an agenda going on there. There's simply no doubt about it with that video. And that video was doing better than most of my videos, which that probably raised an eye as well, that people were actually starting to see it. Yeah. So
That's absolutely unbelievable. So now the video is just absolutely gone, huh? It's permanently gone. Did they give you an account strike for it as well?
No, they didn't. They did not give me an account strike. It is permanently gone though, and a lot of people have said try re-uploading it, and I've been debating that honestly. I don't know if that would just anger them even more, or if it might just squeak by. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, and I think it's not just an algorithm thing, to answer that point. For example, on Instagram, until last week, I've never had any of my posts taken down on Instagram. But in the past week, I've had at least 5 or 6. And again, that's never happened before. So something is going on where there is a targeted campaign, happening. And Instagram they're not hurting my account or anything in any way I can tell. They're not like limiting what I can do, but they're saying it violates their community standards or their rules or whatever. And I go read their rules and nope, it doesn't. And again, that has never happened until a week ago. And now it's happening virtually every day.
Yeah. And I it's interesting that you have an account rep, because I used to have one too. And this was a couple of years ago, and he was amazing. Anytime I had a problem like this, he immediately called me back. He immediately got it resolved in my favor. And then he was kicked upstairs, went to another job, and I was assigned another account rep. And she, from the first minute, she sent me an email saying, I'm your new account rep. I sent her a note back, welcoming her, thanking her, and all that stuff, trying to be polite. And after that, zero communication. Whenever I had a problem, nothing. I went through creator support, got just a random person. They helped me with it. Then I said, can I go to somebody to appeal who my rep is? Because you get a rep at 500,000 subscribers. And I was told no. There's nobody to appeal to. If your rep doesn't help you, tough. We don't care. There's nothing we can do. We don't care.
Yep. My rep has actually always been good. She's like, I'm guessing, a liberal, lives in San Francisco. I know that for sure because she always talks about it.
Mine was, but we had great conversations.
Yeah, she's typically totally helpful about everything. Like, she doesn't take a political stance, as far as I can tell, anyway. So, but yeah, on this one, she hasn't got back with me, and that's never happened. Like, usually she's back with me within 24 hours.
Well, this particular election cycle has been extremely nasty, and it seems more divisive than ever before that I can remember in American history. And I've been around in voting since Ronald Reagan. Well, I didn't vote for Reagan. I was a little too young, but I enlisted because of Reagan. But anyway, this country has just continuously gone to the point where it's rioting in the streets and things like that. We've seen unrest before. That's not new, but we've not seen it continue for almost 6 months or more now. We just had another incident in Philadelphia where a man was shot that charged police with a knife, and now they're burning Philadelphia. It's just so divisive right now, and Americans are at each other's throats, and it's bad for the country.
And one thing I want to kind of touch on that's different, and I do think it's relevant to the conversation, is social media and how they are able to control the thoughts of so many people. been there's a myriad of studies. If you look into it at all, just don't search on Google, obviously, search somewhere else. But if you look into the Waifigans, so combine that with all of the, unconstitutional orders to keep people in place and keep them, kept in one area, not working, all of those sorts of things, combined with anything that's designed to cause social outrage, whether it be law enforcement incidents or anything else. And it's just a powder keg. It really is. It really is. And social media is gasoline on that fire.
It is. And, you see the politicians talking an awful lot about this Section 230 and how this protects the social media players. They were given an exemption early on when the internet was just taking off. And, they as long as they didn't moderate the content on their platforms, they would be given carte blanche legal protection. They simply couldn't be sued for what was on their platforms. But now they've taken to moderating that content. So now they become a publisher. Publishers are open to being sued. And so with this Section 230 protecting them, they're getting their cake and eating it too. They're getting complete protection and immunity from the law and from people being able to sue them for their behavior. And yet they're moderating the content, which they're not technically supposed to be doing. So that's why you're seeing this discussion in Washington now in big tech. And big tech, the more Washington pushes on them, the more rebellious they become. Look what they did to you. What's concerning about what they did to you? What a micro level of scanning they're doing to immediately flag that video and yank it. How long was it up?
It was up, I think, 2 or 3 days.
Okay. So it took them 2 or 3 days to identify and yank the video.
Right, but that's why I don't think it is an algorithm thing. Somebody saw that and was like, this is effective. That's my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. It was absolutely pulled for political reasons, has nothing to do with community standards. And the thing about YouTube, guys, is they don't publish their standards. We don't know exactly what rules we're bound by. We're just given vague generalities. And if you ask for specifics, they'll say we can't give them to you. And then when you ask why you can't give them to us, they'll say, well, if we tell you specifically what we're doing, then you're just going to find ways around it. Again, circular logic. So basically, we have to stumble into the booby trap before we know where you put the booby trap. And, it's just unbelievable that they do this and nothing, is controlling them. They're completely unregulated. And I'm not for government regulation. I hate it. But then this is the downside to deregulation when you get companies that just absolutely, they're a monopoly and they just use their power, influence, and their monopoly to sway the outcome of a political election. Quite literally, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube, they can sway the outcome of an election. And they're attempting to do that right now. And Mike is living proof of it.
Yep. No, they absolutely are. And the 230 protection is significant. Again, I am not a fan of government anything either. Right. But they're interfering with the government, right? That's exactly what they're doing as big tech companies. And there's a litany of issues with it. Number one is that Google and Facebook are huge defense contractors. That alone makes it much less likely that any congressional action or anything like that's actually going to happen. But just like Tim said, as soon as they start moderating their content, they're just like CNN or any other publisher. The reason Nick Sandmann, the kid, the Covington kid, was able to win hundreds of millions of dollars in all his lawsuits is because those companies are responsible for what they're putting out there if it's not correct because they moderate the content.
They defamed him.
The same should be true for Facebook, the way they're acting, and YouTube. But it's not, unfortunately, at least not as of yet. And these companies they're ruining people and not paying any consequence for it. And they're not following their own standards. That's another problem too, right? So like YouTube, Facebook, whoever, just like Tim said, we don't always know the rules, but the thing is we do have an agreement with them. We have a creator agreement with anyone, Facebook, YouTube, and they're not following their end of that contract.
Right.
So that alone, I mean, it's infuriating, and obviously I could complain about this all day. It's not going to do anybody any good, but I just want people to understand that it's not like, oh, it's a private company, they can do whatever they want. Kind of like I get it. I own private companies. Like I get the theory.
As
there,
do I.
It is different. It is different when they're impacting national policy.
When they're a
right?
monopoly
It's
and they can control the outcome of an election potentially. It is a completely different monster that absolutely has to be looked at. Guys, I just want to let you know that Guns and Gadgets is in the video chat. And he's such a good guy, guys. He is amazing. He lives and breathes firearms politics. If you don't subscribe to Guns and Gadgets, please do. And also Mr. Guns and Gear if you don't already. He called me up. He's such a good guy. He called me up and he's like, hey man, can I make a video about your post on Facebook? I said, absolutely. I want everybody to make a video about my post on Facebook. That's the whole point. But he's such a good guy that he didn't want to, like step on my toes or something. It's like, that's not what this is about, man. I'm a militant 2A activist, and I put that out there for other creators to latch onto and go out and make their content, because I want this spread everywhere, because what we have to do is get everybody watching this to share videos like this, to reach out to their friends, share it on social media, use their tools against them, use YouTube, use Facebook, use Instagram against them, share this. And they can't stop us. And if they pull this video down, you have my permission to repost it. Repost it all over the world, because I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about getting the word out and letting people know that this nonsense is going on with the BATF and with YouTube and with Twitter and Facebook, that they're doing everything they can to influence the outcome of an election.
Absolutely. And to that point as well, when my video got taken down, everyone was like, why are you on YouTube? Why are you wherever? And I was like, you have to be there. That's the point. They want to control the information. So if you're not there with your information on their platform, then they win.
Right. Because there's no alternative, guys. It's a true monopoly. Name one site that has the traffic YouTube does. Google owns YouTube. Google owns Google. Who do you think's search results are going to get hit first? YouTube search results. Long before BitChute, long before Gunstreamer, long before any of the others out there, they're going to put their own search results up from their own platforms. So, we have to live here, because this is where our audiences are. They're not leaving these platforms. Everybody complains about them, as we do, but the reality is we all stick around and we're here, because if we left, we would have no following and we have no voice. And you guys definitely wouldn't know about what the ATF just pulled, because I wouldn't have been able to make that post on Facebook.
Yep, exactly. Agreed 100%.
All right, man. I'm trying to catch up to all the super chats, guys. Thank you so much again. We are viewer funded primarily through Patreon. The super chats we fund here, USCCA. We get a little bit of kickbacks if you guys join with them. We try to be viewer supported. I know Mike has Patreon and stuff like that as well. We're at the top of the hour, man. We're about 8 minutes in. Is there anything you want to say to tie this up? And then I want folks to know how they can find you and how they can support you.
Sure. Again, just thanks for having me on. Obviously, you're a much larger channel than I am, so getting exposure to your audience, I appreciate it. You guys can find me at basically any of the major social media / Mr. Guns and Gear, MRGUNS, N like November, then Gear. I'm on all of them. Including the new ones, Parler and whatever else.
Yeah, we all are, man. We're all like, spreading out, trying to figure out what the next alternative is, and hopefully there is an alternative to the current, monopolies. I want an alternative to Facebook. I want an alternative to YouTube. Just signed up with Utreon. I hope they are able to pull it off. We create accounts all over the place. We can't really post to them all regularly because we're so busy with our primary accounts that actually have our following. But yeah, man, just be sure to check him out. Be sure to follow him on YouTube. Any words of wisdom, and then we will sign off, guys. Again, we're at the top of the hour. I'm trying to get all these super chats up on the screen. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no words of wisdom from me. I think we covered the topics pretty thoroughly. If you guys have questions, definitely feel free to reach out, ask me. I have no issues talking about this. Again, my video will be up on this topic shortly, right after this video. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yes, he will be putting up a video talking about this ATF action. It's always good to get more information. I am trying to stay in communication with folks that are in the know. If anything changes, I will definitely be doing an update video next week. GOA wants to get involved. They sent out an alert today. GOA and I will be doing a live stream next week talking about, basically what our options are. How are we going to fight this? because we have to. We can't just sit by and let this go on. And it's going to take every single one of you writing your congressmen, writing your senators, and sending emails to the White House. And people will say, it doesn't really make a difference. You're so wrong. You are so wrong. It does make a difference. And if you want to know how to contact your representatives, I have that information. I shared publicly, I think on Patreon, I shared a public post there. If not, I know I put that stuff also on Facebook, so you can figure out how to reach your senators and your representatives and stuff like that. And again, just send them emails, be polite. I did put up a sample letter on Facebook that would be, something that you could use, cut and paste, so you don't have to write it yourself. A lot of folks asked for that because I know it can be a little bit daunting writing a letter to your congressman. But also keep in mind, if you write your own letters, guys, don't be rude. Don't be, sarcastic. Don't use foul language. Keep it short and concise. Don't make threats like, I'll vote your rotten rear end out and all that stuff. Just the facts. Keep it short. Be polite. And that's how you get their attention. And let them know you're a constituent, because that's what they care most about.
Yep. So just a quick note on that.
Yep.
I used to work for a congressman before. So the congressmen obviously don't read them. Other people do. So yeah, it's absolutely tracked. All that stuff is tallied, and those reports do go to the congressman. They do care about that stuff.
It absolutely is. Yep, you're absolutely right. Now, I've never worked for a congressman. Man, dude, you're like a jack of all trades. You've done so much stuff in your life.
I have.
But what Mike's telling you, I know to be true, because I know other people that have worked as aides for congressmen while they're in college and stuff like that. And it is. When an email comes in, they'll read it. They'll take important notes. They'll put it on basically a spreadsheet. Then that is given to the representative as an overview. So the actual representative probably won't read your email, but a staffer will. They'll take notes, and then they will present an abbreviated document to the senator or congressman so they know what you're saying. So it does get read, and it's part of their briefing. All right. So guys, I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Please go by the Facebook page. Go by and check out the link to the Wiley Reign website. Share that link everywhere in social media. Share this video, share Guns and Gadgets video, share VSO Gun Channel's video, share Mike's video that's going live later. Share them all everywhere across the internet, because that's how we're going to get our voices heard. All right. With that, guys, I think I've caught up on the super chats. Thank you so much, guys. It truly means a lot. We will talk to you guys soon. Again, we will be doing a live stream here shortly with Gun Owners of America, and we'll probably do a deep dive again into what we can do, politically. So with that being said, Mike, thank you so much, my friend, for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Okay, guys. See you soon.